Hi everyone. It is the weekly wrap up today. As you guys know, we announced that we had to say goodbye to 21-year-old Bobcat Nikko. It's a hard goodbye, but also one that fills joy in our hearts because Nikko was 21, so he lived a really, really long life. But I wanted to, before I started the weekly wrap up, to kind of share with you a little bit about Nikko and what's been going on, and his backstory. I remember I was working still full-time when I was running the sanctuary, and I was actually in the islands of the Bahamas, which was one of my clients. And it would seem fancy back in the day, but honestly, all I wanted to do was be back home where I was starting the sanctuary. But I was in the islands of the Bahamas, and I received a call from somebody in Iowa that had a pet bobcat, and she was given it as a gift from her boyfriend. And her boyfriend broke up, and part of his kind of revenge was to turn her in that she illegally had a bobcat in Iowa. So she chose to surrender Nikko to our sanctuary instead. And so from the Bahamas, I coordinated when I could meet them at the old sanctuary and when they could drive there and where we were going to put them and things like that. So Nikko's been with me since, it's got to be 2001. And so he was just a couple years old, and he was always very social, but he was always also a very possessive cat. That meant he'd reach through the fence and tried to grab you closer. He would purr, things like that. And in the early years, he used to go to the top of his habitat, it had a roof on it, and chase the squirrels that are running across the oak trees and things like that. And we could see that he was starting gnawing on his little toes, and his tail was twitching a lot more than Henry Haley and other bobcats, and he was kind of chasing it. And so we were getting nervous because we could see it was affecting his quality of life. Our veterinarian saw him on several occasions, couldn't find anything. We tested him for tetanus and lead and anything we could. It was negative. We ended up bringing him to the University of Minnesota, doing an MRI and spinal tap, and they couldn't find anything either. They ended up diagnosing him with cat tail chasing syndrome, which is kind of a catch-all for things that they can't describe. It's a high sensitivity, nerve sensitivity and response. And so we started treating him with gabapentin, more so because he came to us as a 4-paw declaw and was showing signs of arthritis. But that actually helped with his other neuro side effects, and he stopped chasing his tail, he stopped gnawing on his feet, but because of that condition, every time we tried to introduce Nikko to other bobcats, they would really pick on him, and we didn't want that for him. So we had a group of servals that had Rio, a serval in it, and Rio was too tough for all the other servals. We just couldn't trust him with the other servals. So we paired them together, and it was a match made in heaven for 20 years, taking kind of the submissive of the bobcat world and the dominant of the serval world. And so they've lived blissfully for the last 20 years. Well, Nikko's osteoarthritis continued to get worse and worse and worse, and we kept increasing his pain management, laser therapy, all of that. He was on 3 times a day medication. He was on the highest dose of 3 different types of medication we could give him. We looked at stem cell therapy, but he was not doing well when we were doing sedating him. He had a really tough time with recovery. So we did not resedate him for the stem cell therapy. We also knew that his advanced spondylosis and his joints, his wrists, he was almost had his feet backwards and was walking almost on his wrist by the time he passed away. So we were evaluating him on a day-by-day basis. Just a few weeks ago, he was going up on his perches and coming down. He obviously wasn't grooming himself like he should be, but he'd have these episodes where caretakers would go see him in the morning and he wouldn't want to wake up. He was breathing, he seemed calm, but he was very, very lethargic. But then by noon, he'd be kind of up and perky again, as much as a 20-year-old could be, and wanting food. Those episodes got closer and closer together, and in the last couple days of his life, he did not want to get up off his hammock or off his floor. He didn't want to come up for food. We put food in front of him. He didn't appear painful as much as he appeared. His body was just fading completely. And so the last day we chose to sedate him just to see if there's anything we were missing that could be fixed. But we knew very well that our plan was not to wake him up if we didn't find something that could be radically fixed. We just knew his body was deteriorating. So when we sedated him, he was dehydrated, which old cats are a lot of time, to kidney function, his osteoarthritis, and the calcium deposits and that on his back and feet. I don't even know how he was walking, but we knew it was time. We didn't find anything we could fix, and we knew he was slowing down. So he was surrounded by all of us, everybody here, and it was really sad, but at the same time, for the last year and a half, he's been on borrowed time, and we've been so blessed to have him every day we did. And the biggest thing we can do and be true to our mission is let them go with dignity. Do not let them suffer. Choose the right time. Choose a little sooner than later, because later is a lot of times for us, not for them. And I think Rio, his partner, kind of knew that he was going downhill. He wasn't taking advantage of him yet, but they were separating themselves a little bit. And Rio seems to be doing just fine, transitioning without his counterpart. At 19 and with his aggressive history to other servals, we will not be merging Rio with another cat. Rio also at 19 has had a lot of kind of asthmatic episodes, breathing episodes. We have to keep him inside when it's humid or really hot. So, Rio's compromised too. So at 19, it can be pretty challenging. But what I wrote in the memorial is so true for all of us, humans and animals, is that it is one of life's greatest gifts to have the opportunity to grow old. So many of the animals we take in, don't get that opportunity. So we were blessed to have Nikko as long as we did, and blessed to be able to let him go peacefully. So thank you for all the wonderful, wonderful comments. And today on Facebook is going to be a tribute to Nikko. So this will be my live post for the day versus a walk around. But I wanted to kind of use this as a time to talk about our other geriatrics. I mean, as you guys follow other sanctuaries, loss is a part of the rescue world. And it's not always geriatrics we lose. We can get cancer, other things can happen. They come from really unknown backgrounds and sometimes severe malnutrition. So life expectancies can be shorter. The hybrids definitely have shorter lives and the white tigers than their purebred counterparts. But we still have a lot of geriatrics. In the past, our geriatrics were a huge tiger population and big cat population, and now we see it mid and smaller size. So I wanted to share with you some ages, and I'm just picking 19 years and older because the list is too long. But Shadow the black leopard is 22 years this year. Bosco the African serval is 22. Shazam the black leopard is 21. Nunda the serval is 21. So hard to think of these guys older. I still think of so many of them as the 5 or 6 year old cat that was surrendered to the sanctuary. Baby Jenga, my boy, he's 20, almost 21. Pandora is 20 years old. Max the Bengal is 19. Phoenix the serval, Nunda's brother from a different litter, is 19. Ledger the Savannah is 19. Lizzie the African serval is 19. Ramsey our Canada lynx is 19. Sebastian the serval is 19. And of course, Nico's remaining friend, Rio the African serval, is 19. So you can see we are preparing ourselves to make sure that they have the best ending of their lives, no matter how long that will be. But we do know that animals and humans can only live so long. So I wanted to share with you some of the geriatrics. But on a lighter note, as much as we have geriatrics, it has been the last 12 months of cubs at the Wildcat Sanctuary. As exciting as that energy is, it just you know, makes me want to work harder because we have a 20+ year commitment to every one of those cubs. I'm going to be old in 20 years. So we definitely want to set TWS up as we always have for sustainability, and you help us do that. And our staffing plans and all of that and strategic plans are so important about that sustainability because of so many cubs we have. But that kind of goes me back to Indy. You know, Indy is doing great. You know, yesterday I was with Kiara up front and I heard a dog barking, and so I went down and Kiara found me and went on a walk in red zone with me all around Wild Woodlands. And then staff came down like, where do you hear the dog barking? And probably once in 20 years we've had the neighbor's dog dig in and be around the fences. And then I realized it's not a dog barking. It was Indy doing her quacking. Her vocalizations is so much different than Dash was when she's wanting attention. Dash was that screaming pterodactyl, just screaming out of frustration. And Indy's is a more of like, hey, come back, hey, come back, come back, come back. I don't want to be alone. And then when you come, much like Dash, she wants to just watch, have us watch her play and show off. And so it was funny because also the staff came down and said, oh, Kiara's here. That must have been Kiara barking. I'm like, no, it was Indy. So she's still, you know, a baby and still wants all the attention, and it can break your heart, but once you've raised enough cubs, you know, especially tiger cubs, that's what they do. They just, you know, they want the world to revolve around them. And it will, because Indy's and Nova and our witness protection and even grown-up Dash, you know, it always revolves around the cats here at the sanctuary. So that was kind of a funny thing. Also, this is weekly wrap up. We're back on Facebook. As I said yesterday, we want to follow you. So most of you, when we transitioned to YouTube, didn't come over to YouTube with us, and so many did, so thank you. But we want to bring the news to you where you're at. So we're going to bring back the weekly wrap up to Facebook Live here. And then our media interns and Jetson are gonna actually upload this post to YouTube. So if you're still watching YouTube, it'll be there. It just won't be live. It might be a couple hours late or even a day late if we're really busy, but the weekly wrap-ups will end up in both places. So let's get to some animal updates. Zeke the tiger, as you guys know, has had a lot of GI issues in the past and kind of has a chronic disease, but the caretakers notice his third eyelids keep going up and down, up and down. So our veterinarians looked at him. They didn't sedate him. They didn't want to sedate if they needed to. And they think he's got an irritation because there's some cloudiness, but it doesn't look degenerative, at least from what they could see. It looks like there's an irritant. So whether he has allergies or sand got kicked up in his eyes, or, you know, he was rubbing on scent enrichment and he reacted to it. So Elise and the vets have developed a way to flush his eyes from outside the fence using like a little catheter and syringe, and so he's allowed that twice, and it's looking a little better. So we're gonna just kind of recheck that in the next couple days. So Gino and Sophie, the sponsor parents are gonna get updates, but you know their play dates were going great last week. We put him on another play date yesterday, and Gino's neurological symptoms kind of kicked in. He had more nystagmus, he was circling, he was biting his back foot, and then he gets very frustrated when that happens, and that can be, you know, that's just overstimulation. So he then decided to take that out on Sophie and wanted to definitely go after her. She hunkered down in her den box, but she kind of emotionally shut down, was just like, this is too much for me. So similar to what he did with Alyssa, nobody was hurt, nothing got engaged like that, but we could see it escalating, so we separated them. Right now we're gonna give them a long break. We're not gonna do another play date for a while. We are not gonna push this. We want safety as #1 for our residents. So Sophie got let out into her large free roaming habitat in Pride Prairie. So she'll probably wanna be out there for a while, and as you know, stubborn as she is, she might not come back. And then Gino, because he was having so much nystagmus and neurological kind of symptoms because he was overstimulated. We've kept him in until today, and then he's going to get full access. So they're on a hallway. They're not exactly on a shared wall until they come into their holding yard or their building, then they'll still have that shared wall. So this is about just kind of hoping getting out some of that energy, seeing now that they are out in their big outdoor spaces, is there a better chemistry or not, and it's, you know, we're not going to push it. We're still brainstorming so many other animals of, you know, could Gino be with Alana and Aurora, because now it seems like Gino needs somebody to put him in his place, which Sophie was doing great until recently. So we don't know why Sophie is being such a pushover to him, but he might need somebody to tell him that is inappropriate behavior, much like Nova needs. So Nova and Indy are doing great on the shared wall. You know, Indy got so much press, and we're so thankful that it brought awareness to our sanctuary, but bigger, the illegal wildlife trafficking trade, because that's really what we want to end. As much as we enjoy Indy and Nova and all them, we do not want to be taking in more cubs that have been illegally purchased and sold. And then Katie, as you know, her caretaker from Southwest Wildlife had to leave, and I know it was very emotional for her, and we've just extended the offer. She can visit anytime she wants, and we're so grateful for all the work she did with Indy to make her such the special, sweet tiger she is. And then Indy's loving the grass still. It's still her favorite thing. She's just mowing it around, rolling it around. But Gino's been in that habitat, Tonka's been in that habitat, Daisy's been in the habitat, now Cubs, and they have been hard on that habitat. They have killed almost every tree. We've put in pines that had to be cut down because they died. Willows last year, Gino killed by spraying it. So I did order some more trees today, and even some lilac bushes, and over the next few weeks to month, we'll probably be planting those and hopefully being able to put a fence around it. And we know it'll take time to get some growth, but there's just a few habitats that the cats just have destroyed everything in, and we keep planting and they keep destroying. So wish us luck, or wish these, I should say, trees and plants luck against the tigers. We are looking at moving Dash again. So Dash and Thor, I know everybody wants a happy ending. Our cats are being very challenging right now about wanting to be with other cats. And Dash has made it quite clear that Thor is not going to work. But we do have some options. Unfortunately, all the cubs we're getting in are 6 months apart or 4 months apart, so they all have to kind of get a certain size. But if we move Winona back to Thor and Dash back to Wild Woodlands, then we have some options in the next coming months as cubs grow up to do some shared wall, play dates, moves and mergers, things like that. Now we know Winona loves being on no shared walls, but she was definitely appropriate and still had a good life next to Thor. She just didn't want Thor in her space, but either does Dash. So we think she'll be fine, and her and Dash are great at getting in a crate, and I think then it will just benefit us being able to move these younger tigers around and see if there can be any possible mergers or play dates. So it's always musical habitats, but it also enriches the cats' lives to find new spaces and new smells and things like that. The cheetahs are enjoying being back out in their habitat. Lavani's back to eating his whole diet, which is great. He looks like he's put on a little weight. We haven't put him on the scale yet. We're just letting him and Kitu really enjoy being out in the habitat, out in the yard. They've been a lot in their manger, which is their favorite spot, but a lot up on the hill as well. So we'll keep you posted, but no news is good news right now. And then we have been doing some more small cat play dates, and I'll tell you, they're between the bobcats, the tigers, and the Savannahs. We might just have a lot of independent cats we've rescued recently. And so Leo the Savannah lived with Eddie, but Leo came to us for attacking other cats, and he did not like Shy Bear when he was in the office and tried to attack her. And it took several months of him and Leo being on the shared wall before a play date that he then just loved Eddie. So Eddie and Leo have been living together. So we thought maybe Leo and Eddie, who've been living on a shared wall with Maxie, the serval Maximilian, and Thor, not serval, Savannah, Maximilian the Savannah, and Thor Senior the Savannah, like that group could merge. So we did a couple play dates, and it went really well in the beginning. And then Leo, the Savannah, got overconfident and then decided he wanted to chase everybody. So we've separated that for a while, and now we're looking at other play dates with Hilo. And again, we're not gonna make things happen if they don't want to. A lot of times the temperatures and what's going on in the environment can change a play date too. So if it's a warmer day, they're calmer. Yesterday we were in the 40s. It was like winter coming again, and they get really, really frisky. So we're looking at all those variables all the time, and you know, changing as we need to. They are finishing Chili's yard right now, so he's going to have full access by next week to his entire yard. That's going to be big for him. We'll see how well that he does with that. Once we know he's doing really well maneuvering the yard on his 3 legs and compromised legs, he'll get a big push again on physical therapy with his bridge and his step overs. And then once he does well with that, that's when we're going to be considering and merging him back with his family, and being very safe about that and seeing if that's even possible. So we'll keep you posted on that. There has been a lot of enrichment that the caretakers are giving out. They were doing coconuts that they drilled holes in and gave them to the servals to kind of put their feet in. Watermelons were given out to the big cats, but the most enrichment, sadly, if you guys saw the live post yesterday, is nature. There's so many birds and voles and things around the property that in our larger free roaming habitats, the cats are finding their own enrichment and finding their own diets. So we don't put bird feeders around or anything like that. We don't want to attract wildlife near the cats, but wildlife does what wildlife does. So that's kind of what's happening there. We're also still continuing a CBD trial for anxiety and osteoarthritis. So we have cats on that. So far, Shadow and Shazam, the leopards, have been the most sensitive and actually acting, I would say, a little high versus just CBD. So we backed off on some of the cats that were showing outwardly some signs, and then kind of playing with that. We have a trial of 15 cats now, and then 15 again, and then 15 more. And our veterinarians are watching that closely, watching dosages closely. We are actually reporting back to university officially on the study on if we're seeing changes, behavioral, even palatability, if the cats like it or refusing the tabs and things like that. And then Prada and Nova turn 1 next month, and so stay tuned. We're going to be doing a kind of a party and bring you along for a live post for that. And of course, when Prada turns 1, the whole Ukraine Pride benefit. So definitely stay tuned for that, and you'll hear more about that next week. And then on top of all this, on top of bringing Indy here, on top of saying goodbye to Nikko, we are still involved in other cases. And we've had other residents join us here at the sanctuary that we won't be sharing for a while, and we'll explain that later. But it's busy, so we're happy we can share Indy with you, but our staff was on the road and picking up other cats, and so we will share more of that when we can. But know that there's more residents here that always need your support. So sponsorship of the cats is huge. The wish list that you guys contributed to buying off Amazon and Chewy yesterday, huge help, because like I said, as those small cats are eating us out of house and home, it's amazing how much wet cat food and cat litter we're going through right now. So you will always see that on the list, but we're always like just rotating that inventory and using it up like crazy. Frontline's also on the list. It has been one of the heaviest tick seasons in Minnesota. For years, we've told you we don't have to worry about ticks. We just treat a few older cats with Frontline Plus and do some diatomaceous earth. This year, we've treated almost every cat with Frontline Plus, which is almost $1,000 a month. So you'll see that on the wish list too, because we just want to make sure we keep down the ticks or any tick-borne diseases. So thank you so much for that. Okay, some other things going on. I was still always involved in crisis planning, rescue planning, crisis planning for our facilities, how we can support other sanctuaries during crisis, like natural disasters and things like that. So yesterday I was on a Zoom for transport emergency planning. It was zoos and sanctuaries. So that was one big thing we're doing. we always need more help in the summer, and so we usually have a seasonal caretaker. It has been Misha in the last couple of years. Eventually he couldn't keep doing that. He needed to get a long-term job in Canada where he's from, and so we will miss Misha, but hopefully he'll come back for the staff and intern reunion that's planned for the summer. And so Kelly, who you might guys not know too well, but she is a lead animal caretaker and has been with the sanctuary for a year. She started out as a regular intern, then got the lead position along with Mackenzie, and now will be our seasonal caretaker through September, and then we'll reevaluate if we need more staffing or whatever then, but summer's our month for seasonal, and so we're very, very happy that when we can hire internally and promote internally people that have really dedicated themselves to the sanctuary and proven so much that they support our mission and safety guidelines. It's just awesome. So welcome Kelly as a permanent temporary employee. We've been cleaning up Home Depot. I mean, you guys do spring cleaning, and what we call Home Depot is our catch-all area of the sanctuary. It has all the old wood, all the old hammocks we take out, all those bent inclines and poles that we had to remove from the winter damage. And we stockpile everything because we want to be good stewards of your dollars, and so if we can reuse things, we can. But this was the time to actually haul out things that we were never going to use, and it's amazing when you spring clean at home how much you collect. Wow, when you run a sanctuary, it's amazing what you collect and how many pallets we had from all the chicken deliveries over winter and things like that. So that feels nice to like get back where we can see and find and the supplies we need. We have new culverts going in the next week. We had a culvert give out going into our Cougar Cove area, and the water of our small pond was going up and over the road all spring into our winter pond and kind of making it hard for us to get by. So we're digging up that whole road and putting in some huge new culverts. We had a new Wi-Fi installed underground to the food center. As you know, you guys helped us build that awesome new food center that has digital boards and everything. All of that was working great, but the Wi-Fi system was not. So they actually brought the fiber optic into the building, and then we'll do Wi-Fi from there. So we're just waiting for the final touches on that. The vets have been busy because there's been drug recalls, and drug recalls from a company called Acorn, and what they do is they make our concentrated ketamine and other drugs that we use for big cats, and I know he told me a few of the other drugs that are very expensive, and so the recall is to not use the drugs, but they're not reimbursing companies, they're just recommending we buy new. Well, that's thousands of dollars. So your general gift to donation for us to restock those meds that were recalled would make a huge, huge difference, because they're not reimbursing, they're just recommending due to quality control those drugs not be used. There's also a lot on back order now. We saw it through COVID, but there is things on back order that we're hoping we get in, and our vets are staying on top of it so that the cats still get all the treatments they need. Gina, our outreach coordinator, is also the chair of the events committee for the Big Cat Sanctuary Alliance, and she is actually spearheading, along with so much support from other members, the Big Cat Sanctuary Conference that will be in September, and that's the Alliance Conference where all of us sanctuaries come together. We share presentations, we get to visit another sanctuary, so we move it around so that we can always see another sanctuary. It's learning from each other, networking from each other, and it's really something we all look forward to every year. But if you've ever put on a conference, it's like putting on a wedding. And so, you know, that takes time away from our sanctuary, but helps the bigger good of all sanctuaries. And we find that it is really important for us to participate in the Big Cat Sanctuary Alliance. I'm on the steering committee and the rescue committee, and Kelly's on the finance committee, and Gina's spearheading as the chair of the events committee. So yeah, we're very involved because we think we're stronger together, and that's one thing we always support is the collaboration of other sanctuaries, the collaboration of our supporters supporting other accredited sanctuaries. So thank you. Also, a bunch of us sanctuaries were on a Zoom call with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So the Big Cat Public Safety Act passed, and you know, we do not support private ownership. But we do support knowing where privately owned big cats are, because that is a benefit to public safety, because first responders will know if they're going into a place that has big cats. We then also, if we know where they are, that people can watch up, authorities can watch to make sure they're compliant with the new Big Public Safety Act, which means no breeding and no public interaction. And so we know that that deadline for private owners to register under the Big Cat Public Safety Act is June 18th. And we are wanting to help get the word out. So you'll see us that. It's not to encourage private owners to, keep their tigers. It's to encourage people to register so we can make sure they're complying with the law. We also don't need an influx of tigers that are being taken care of or in good hands, or even cougars going into sanctuaries right when this law passes. But I will tell you, there's only a small group of people that are registering, because I think most private owners are, look at where Indy came from. That person wasn't going to register. They're selling her for $25,000. But if people want to be able to compliant, keep their cats, and not have them seized or not have civil penalties, they need to register by June 18th. And we want to help get the word out, because then there will be a registrar of those cats in private hands. And we know still a fraction of people are only going to register, and everybody else tries to get by with things and deal with it if they get prosecuted afterwards. But the more we can help spread that word, the better and safer our first responders will be. We've been working on some legacy gifts, and legacy gifts are people who've put the sanctuary in their will and future plans. And we hate to see any donor pass on, but we're so thankful when people put plans into place of what their wishes are. It's the best way we can honor them. And so one of those wills is, this is a longtime donor and wanted his legacy to be coming to us in another nonprofit. But because he didn't have the proper paperwork in place, it is now being contested by a family member. And so not that we ever want to take money away from a family, but we also want to make sure we're honoring a donor and a person's wishes. And so this is more of me getting in my soapbox for you, and I've done it too, is that doing your estate planning, no matter your age or what, and making sure that your wishes are going to be followed through is really important. And it's also important if you have kids and family. None of us want to cause family dynamics and fighting and things like that. And as my parents are growing older, I'm very thankful my mom has a lot into place already, but it is something all of us should think about. And it doesn't mean I'm asking you to leave TWS in your will. We're always grateful if you do, but it's more if you have pets and everything else that to do, your own legacy planning and your will and your living will is really important. And there's free templates online, but you can go to our website under Plan Giving, under Donate and Legacy Giving, and there's toolkits. It's not about TWS, it's about how you actually can set up trusts or leave legacies and kind of a checklist. So it is a resource there for you and all of our supporters, so definitely check that out. And then even though Memorial Day's here, I hope you guys are doing something fun. Our staff is still working Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 24/7. The animals are still needing care. So I want to thank all of our staff and interns that are coming in on their holiday and missing their holiday to make sure the cats are always cared for, and our volunteers that will be coming this weekend too. So thank you for that. With Indy and the other cubs that we've seen, and that the big cat crisis is not slowing down, it just looks a little different. Judson is putting together a video about cub trafficking, and that we can share and you can share, and we can hope educate people. And we'll be doing a professional small cat crisis video too. My PowerPoint presentation and all that has more details, but we want to put out some media components that people can share, and we can start educating about this issue, just like we all did about cub heading, and so that we can put an end to the big and small cat crisis in America. And then looking forward, can you believe it's already time for us to design next year's calendar? So the 2024 calendar, it will be big cats. If we have enough time with media interns to do small cat calendar, they will. It's really about time allocation and things like that, but There's going to be a lot of new cats that will be featured in next year's calendar, and then we'll tell you when that goes online and everything. That's probably not until August. But in the meantime, if you have a sponsor cat, you can always visit our online gift shop. It's crazyforbigcats.com. And if you have any favorite cat, there's a t-shirt there with their photo on it and other wonderful things. So, you know, I appreciate always what you guys do to support the sanctuary. I hope you have a safe weekend. We will be going live tomorrow, so you'll get to see some of your favorite cats tomorrow. And thank you for all the amazing condolences for Nikko. I'm sharing those with staff. It means a lot, you know, to everybody here. We know that you guys hurt and feel the same out there, and we saw that another sanctuary had to say goodbye to a tiger this week. So we feel their caretakers' pain and everything too, and I just appreciate all the work everybody's doing to make a better life for the cats in our sanctuaries.